Manifestation lessons taught from the Quran, the Tao Te Ching, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bible. You see, when it comes to materializing your desired reality, there's a multitude of metaphysical wisdom that you can extrapolate from these religions. In particular, in this video, we're going to be showing you how to create abundance from the little that you have, which can be extrapolated to whatever it is that you want to materialize. Opportunities for career, money in your business, more money in general, or relationships. We'll also be covering how to make the universe quite literally surrender to you. We'll also be covering how to make the universe be on your side. We'll also be covering how to navigate life from a point of manifestation to create your desired reality when things seem the darkest. Because like I said, all of these texts have deep esoteric wisdom within them. Esoteric comes from the Greek word esoterikos, which means the inner, and there is the exoteric or the exoterikos, which refers to the outer. So in this video, like I said, those are the lessons we're going to be covering, and I'm very, very excited for this video. So let's get into it so you can begin creating your desired reality from principles which I would probably say that most of the spiritual literature that we have in the 21st century is distilled from these main texts. So yeah, let's get into it. Now, one thing that I want to make abundantly clear, speaking to two archetypes of individuals. Now, most spiritual people, because they have left systematic or organized religion, they now have this spiritual ego that will begin to deprive their ability to extrapolate spiritual wisdom in literature, because they'll look at these religions and be like, hey, you know, I'm not a slave, you know, why would I believe in these religions, so on and so forth, which I think is a very, very limited perspective. Because like I said, the truth of the matter is, within these texts, what you derive from these texts depends upon your level of consciousness. You don't read these texts. Oftentimes they read to you depending upon the frequency that you're operating at. So as you're going to see, you might hear stories from these books that you've heard before, but with a deeper metaphysical insight, because the wisdom lies within them all. Now, to the religious person that might have clicked on this video thinking, one of you niggas, you're going to be shocked, because the truth of the matter is, like I said, the principles that we're going to be looking, or the perspective I should say, that we're going to be looking at these scriptures, verses, and stories from is from an esoteric perspective. Esoteric refers to the inner. This type of information was typically kept and only passed down through oral traditions of priests and deeper occultic orders, so on and so forth. So some of this stuff, it might sound a bit demonic, but I can assure you there's none of that going on over here. There's no pentagrams. We don't do any of that stuff over here. And I think it's very important to be able to make that distinction, because there's ego on both sides. And for the individuals that come with their preconceived notion on another religion, that also inhibits your ability to be able to extract something that's worthy out of it. Because remember, whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves, and you're both the thinker and you're both the prover. So if you have this preconceived notion, and one thing that I want you to understand, make sure you're taking notes or leave them in the comments, but your preconceived notions reveal truths to you that you didn't even know that you had. So oftentimes our preconceived notions merge in our minds as truths about what we believe about something. But the truth of the matter is, there are few truths in reality. The truths, what we call the truths, are just ideas masquerading as truth. They're just ideas. So like I said, whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. So let's get into the first lesson. Now, like I said, oftentimes, you know, whether you're familiar with these concepts, you know, when you're trying to materialize something, sometimes life is just dark, man. Life is just pounding you in, pause. And things look very, very dark, to say the least. It's almost like nothing's changing. Things are progressively getting worse. So this first point, this first principle, which we'll start with the Bible, shows how to navigate reality when it appears the darkest. So we'll be going to the 11th chapter of John for the story of Lazarus. Now, like I said, there's these moments as we're trying to materialize things. You may be applying for bare jobs and you're not getting any of them. You might be trying to date bare people and it's just going left. Your business may not be growing the way that you want. You may feel stagnant in your reality. Things aren't really changing to the way that you know they could actually materialize. And in these moments, things tend to get dark. But one thing that I want you to remember is that within the dark always follows dawn, and dawn follows light. The darkness that appears in front of you is illusionary. But the thing about reality is that it will do its best to convince you that the darkness that you're going through is a reality. And oftentimes, like I said, whatever reality can convince your subconscious mind of, it can actually perpetuate its existence. So if reality has the capability of convincing your subconscious mind that things are just terrible right now, you're down bad, it's just not looking good. It's just not looking good, bro. If it can convince you of those things on a subconscious level, then you'll actually begin to reflect those things out into your universe to perpetuate you in that cycle. So the one thing that you have to be aware of is that whatever reality attempts to convince you of, you have to understand that it's illusionary. So the darkness that you may be going through in your reality can be a phase. But that's only if you don't let it phase you, and that's a bar that down, because the truth of the matter is whatever you allow to actually phase you has the capability of altering your internal state. Anything that has the capability of altering your internal state then has the capability of altering your external state. And this is the truth of the matter, because the true power in reality lies in the external. That's the entire game. Sorry, the true power in reality lies in the internal, because the external is just an illusion. When I say that reality is illusion, I'm simply referring to the fact that we only see 0.035% of what actually exists based upon visible light. We see through a process called refraction. Light bounces off surface, goes into our eyes, and we begin to see things. But visible light is only a tiny portion of the entire electromagnetic spectrum. We have ultraviolet, infrared, all of that. It's a tiny fraction. Hence why when people take psychedelics, they begin to see more. It's almost like this is 0.0035% probably increases for a temporary amount of time. Now, what does this have to do with Lazarus? For those of you that are thinking, I know the story of Lazarus, what is this? It's about the guy that rose from the dead, innit? So, story of Lazarus, to cut a long story short, there was a guy called Lazarus. He died. He was dead. He was buried in a tomb. And Christ at the time, which, bear in mind, I've said Christ, not Jesus, Christ. Because when we say Christ over here, Christ is a state of consciousness in which one is unified with the infinite intelligence, when one is one with the infinite intelligence. And you'll be seeing this notion of a unification with the infinite intelligence all over, even with the sign of Hinduism that I showed you. That's representative of the supreme being of the universe, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, God the Son, God the Father, God the Holy Spirit. The mental plane, physical plane, and spiritual plane. This triune nature, the Trinity, is a reference to metaphysical planes of existence. So when we're talking about Christ, I'm talking about a mind that is one with the infinite intelligence. Hence why Christ would say, I and the Father are one mentally. Hence why in Philippians chapter 2, verse 5 to 11, it says, let this mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God did not find it robbery to be equal with God. Now, like I said, Lazarus was dead at the time. His sisters were bare sad. They were like, oh my God, he's dead. And Christ is like, I can rise this nigga from the dead. I really can rise this individual from the dead. So they're like, cool. How are you gonna do it then? Now, bear in mind, go into the context. Let's see how this actually looks. Because this actually looks very, very crazy. So Lazarus is in a tomb. He's dead. He's been dead. Christ is like, he's gonna rise from the dead. He's gonna rise from the dead. Now, in the 11th chapter of John, Christ does something very, very interesting. And that's what I want this first point to be centered around. He said, Father, I thank you for hearing me. And I thank you because you always hear me. Everybody at the time is like, what are you thanking God for? Like, the brother's still dead. Like, the tomb's still closed. No one's here. Christ is there saying, thank you, because I know that you always hear me, Father. Thank you. Everybody else is like, what the hell? 2 twos later, Lazarus pops up. Lazarus is back alive. What's the point? What's the esoteric nature in that story? Well, like I said, in the 11th chapter of John, in the face of death, in the quite literal face of death, nothing changed. In front of the tomb, nothing's changed. Everybody around, Lazarus, his sisters, his people, they're weeping like, what's this guy on? You say you're gonna bring him back, but everybody's just sad. The collective consciousness around goes off what they can see. But Christ, one with the infinite intelligence, did something that you need to begin to do if you want to materialize what it is that you want. Now, like I said, this can be extrapolated if you want a promotion in your career, if you want a job, if you want a different opportunity in your career, if you want to materialize a romantic relationship, if you want more money in your business, if you want more money in general. Extrapolate what I'm about to say to any of that, and I promise you, you will also begin to be able to tap into that particular power. Now, Christ had gratitude before it changed. Now, we often as human beings, simply because we're encapsulated in this third dimensional realm, we operate very linearly, if that's a word. We operate very linearly in the sense that we typically go off what we can see. So something like gratitude is only something that we begin to feel after reality has changed. But you have to begin to reverse and understand that it's on earth as it is in heaven. It's as within as without. It's the internal state that must precede the external change, which means that if you think about it, the indirect implication of being in a thankful, grateful state is the indication that you have something to be grateful for, something to be thankful for. Really think about this. Is it not crazy? I don't know about you, AJ, but is it not crazy that the tomb's closed, the guy's dead, and Christ is saying, thank you, God, I thank you because you always hear me, before anybody's seen him come out?
I'll be shook.
I'll be like, this guy's lost his marbles. Why are you thanking? Like, imagine somebody walking up to a grave and saying, yeah, thank you. I thank God because he heard me, because this person's gonna, like, that's insane. That's the way we begin to perceive it. But if we were to take the esoteric nature, the metaphysical aspect of that story, what it's an indication of is that typically, as human beings, like I said, we allow the external to dictate the internal, meaning we operate by space-time constraints. But if we go back to a point that I said earlier, if reality is an illusion, it's an illusion because it reflects aspects of your frequency, self-concept, state of consciousness, meaning if you have something to be grateful for, then you will begin to show gratitude. So showing gratitude indicates to the universe that you have something to be grateful for. That begins to correspond with what it is that you desire. Then that leads to the manifestation of it. Because remember my definition of manifestation. Manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change, when you're good with it and you're good without it. So my question to you is, are you grateful for your desired reality having manifested? Now the mind says, but it hasn't manifested. But what if that belief is the very thing that's keeping you from actually being able to manifest it? Because see, the mind that is unified with the infinite intelligence, the mind that has transcended, polarity and seeing things as separate, understands one thing. The true limiting belief of reality is the belief that something is missing. And that's a bar, write that down. Because it's that belief exactly that keeps something from coming within your reality. If you have this unconscious idea that you believe something is missing, which you do, naturally, you do, because you've come here to materialize something, you've come here to change your reality, which means all of us come into this realm of information in the frequency that something is missing. We come with the belief that something is missing. But that's actually the belief that perpetuates something to be missing, because if nothing was missing, how would you feel? You'd more than likely be in a state of gratitude. And if you're in a state of gratitude before your reality has changed, then you indicate to the universe that you have changed. And when you have changed, reality changes, because you and reality are the same thing. You're waiting for reality to show you something before you show it to yourself. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work like that. You have to have the capability of displaying gratitude in the face of death. So bare times, people comment, people message, we've been through it. Sometimes you feel like nothing's changing. Nothing's changing. Sometimes shit might even get worse. It might even get worse. Just remember the 11th chapter of John. Remember the story of Lazarus. In the face of death, Christ still showed gratitude. Because think about what showing gratitude does when reality hasn't changed actually does. What's my definition of manifestation? Internally shifting to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent on seeing reality change. There was no emotional dependency on seeing reality change. Because when you're not emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change, reality will be dependent upon you. And when reality is dependent upon you, it will do its best to please you. It will do its best to make you as happy as possible, because there's nothing that it can do for you. Because when the world can do nothing for you, it will attempt to do everything for you. And that's a bar, write that down. Because what you need to begin to understand, like I said, gratitude is an indirect implication that you've received something. Think about it. Whenever somebody gives you a compliment, somebody does something for you, you feel grateful. So gratitude is an indirect, it emits a frequency that indicates to the universe that you have received something. But the issue is you're delaying and you're prolonging your gratitude because you're waiting for reality to make you feel grateful without realizing that reality will give you something to be grateful for when you give it the feeling of gratitude. You can't get this confused the other way around. Because when I tell you that most of us operate in the exact opposite state of consciousness to the infinite intelligence. Like I said, as human beings, we get caught up in this third dimensional realm. It is what it fucking is. But the truth of the matter is, so long as we begin to operate from a level of consciousness dependent upon what we see, we'll be slaves to reality. If you wait for reality to show you something before you feel good, then reality will never make you feel good. Because reality will only make you feel good when you feel good for no reason. When you feel good for no reason, reality will make you feel good for no reason. When you have something to be grateful for, when you have no reason to be grateful, reality will give you a reason to be grateful for. And that's a bar of that down. And I need you to understand, even in the instance where shit is going left, if you can be grateful, not for the shit going left, because a lot of niggas begin to be grateful for their suffering and then end up materializing more suffering on like some pain kink type thing. This isn't what this is. This isn't anything to do with that. You have to be able to stay centered in your desired reality, having already manifested despite what you're seeing, and be able to be so encapsulated by your internal creation, flooding it with emotion, because emotion is the true language of the subconscious mind. And with that intense degree of emotion, it enters the subconscious. If you can be grateful to such a degree prior to your reality changing, then reality will change. Oftentimes, what delays reality from actually changing instantly is our dependency upon it. We're so dependent upon reality changing. And this is one thing we're going to be talking about in the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata actually goes into proper detachment. It's one of my favorite spiritual literatures when it covers detachment, which we'll get to later. But for now, Father, I thank you that you've always heard me, that you always hear me. The conviction of that prayer. I'll get AJ to put up on the screen. It says, Father, I thank you. I thank you because you always hear me. Some of us feel like we get aired by God. To people that may not be from the UK, getting aired is like getting, what do they say, dubbed, like getting ignored.
That's what dubbed mean.
Yeah. Get aired by God. It's dark. There's no worse feeling than praying and getting aired. It's demoralizing. It begins to deplete your conviction and your confidence, which is the most important words when it comes to manifestation, because that solidifies your self-concept. It strengthens the frequency that you're emitting to the universe. Confidence in and of itself. Listen to the conviction in the fact that you always hear me. Some of us treat manifestation like hit or miss. Get me? See if this one manifests. But think about the conviction and the idea that you always hear me. And this isn't to please God. This isn't to flatter God. You can't flatter God. I'm sure it actually says that in the Bible that you can't flatter God, which is what people attempt to do. Niggas will try to bargain with God and be like, yo, God, if she's not pregnant, I promise I'll get my shit together. Like, I swear, like, I'll change to the... You can't flatter God. When Christ said, God, I thank you because thou hear me, you always hear me. That was an internal declaration in conviction and the idea that whatever is within will always be reflected. That's the same level of conviction that you need to have instead of treating this shit like hit or miss, because that's how you treat it. And yeah, the esoteric story of Lazarus, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get into the next one.
Bro said bargain with God.
Nah, bro, I remember when I was religious, I used to treat God like one of my stingy uncles, mom's life, but deep it like this. If it's your internal state of consciousness that reflects into how you begin to experience God, the way that you, or the labels, your preconceived notions of God will be reflected in how you experience God. So if you go to God bargaining like he's stingy, then he's going to be very stingy, or you're going to be stingy, presenting the illusion that it's somebody externalized and have a stingy experience. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
You know how we say people are using like your content for good, bad, they're using it for, you know, getting into relationships.
I don't like this. I don't like the way that you frame this.
This comment is special, it's unique. but I don't want to label it good or bad. You know,
You transcended, yeah?
transcended.
You transcended, yeah?
Here it is. Nero, you keep helping my scamming empire grow all the way from Nigeria. It keeps on growing, and I can't stop making money since I started applying your teachings.
Oh, that's a fire belief. Might steal that one. Can't stop making money.
Can't stop. And yes, I also agree with you. The Illuminati ain't that good anymore.
Yeah, their music just doesn't slap the way that it used to.
Once you're ready to come to Nigeria, I would love to take you around some places in the motherland.
You think I'm gonna come to Nigeria and let you take me around after you just spoke about your scamming empire? I'll get there and I'll kidnap me.
You know.
Yo,
Bro,
man said that it keeps growing and growing.
can't stop making money. Bro.
Hey man, you gotta get how you live.
Some casual blaze. Bro, I love your long and short videos too. Keep both of them coming.
Say less. Say less.
I've conquered the world alone. No, I've conquered the world. Nero, me alone. I've decided to leave you. AJ and your cult untouched from my rule.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you for that. Because, you know, we were really worried about what you was gonna do to us because you've conquered the world now. So, you know, at least he said that he'll leave us untouched, AJ, because I didn't want to get touched. Pause, you know what I'm saying?
Hey, I'm not trying to get touched, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Nero, what do you think of dating apps? That's what someone asked. I don't know why, but yeah.
The only reason I'm laughing is because I got a client, man. he makes about 600K a month. He's really systematic person. He likes everything to be very much organized. He told me the other day that he's hired somebody and given them an SOP of what they would like for their Hinge. So his Hinge account is being ran by an employee of his who he's given a standard operating procedures on what he likes. And he went out on dates.
Yeah, I need to know how successful that was, bro.
Yeah. I said to him though, the person that you're getting to run the account, their frequency may begin to bring people within their proximity that matches his frequency and not yours. You get me? Because now you've put like an intermediary in between you. A middleman. Yo, that's funny. Whole time this girl's thinking, oh yeah, this guy looks really nice. They're talking back and forth. Whole time it's his employee.
What if they go on a date and like there's something that's said on text that he doesn't even like he's gonna have to catch up.
You gotta lock in. You gotta lock in. Be like, hey, I get what you're saying. Perfect. Oh, let's see. I'll take red and orange.
What's the next lesson, Nero?
Thought you'd never ask. Now we'll go into the 14th chapter of Matthew. And this one is all about your bread. Or loaves, I should say. Did I ever tell you about that time I was gonna rob a jewelry store?
Yeah. You were down bad, bro.
This links.
Okay.
This links. Cool. So, 14th chapter of Matthew. So, everybody's familiar with the story of the 5 loaves into 5,000. For those of you who are unfamiliar, there's a story in the Bible to which there's only 5 loaves of bread, and Christ comes and he makes 5,000 loaves of bread. Now, once again, esoteric nature that you can begin to extrapolate this to your own life. You have to understand one thing in particular. Like I said, Christ, a mind that is unified with the infinite intelligence. Artificial
I knew you was gonna say
intelligence.
it. I knew it. Oh, my
Smoke high grade and drink Hennessy.
I knew you was gonna say it, bro. I just knew it.
Now, when I say artificial intelligence, you can extrapolate this wherever you want. This could be God, this could be Allah, this could be Yahweh, this could be Jehovah, this could be Brahma, whatever fits your fancy. But in this instance, I'd just say infinite intelligence. I wrote intelligence twice, crazy. The infinite intelligence is just like, I think it's less loaded, because when I use other words, they may come with labels that you may have preconceived notions about that begins to alter the way that you begin to experience things. So when I say infinite intelligence, I guess it's more neutral. And I think it begins to actually characterize it much better, in my opinion. So I describe God as the infinite intelligence, but some people refer to it as the source. I don't really like that one, but that's neither here nor there. So Christ is a mind that is unified with the infinite intelligence mentally. It's oneness. And that oneness means that they've transcended duality. They transcended, when I say duality or polarity, that's just the idea of separation. It's just a fancy way of saying separation from a more hermetic philosophical point. Separation. Separation is limitation. Anytime we're operating from a consciousness of separation, we enter a degree of limitation. And that limitation begins to show itself in our reality. Meaning, if you begin to look at things in a separated manner instead of all one, then that's when things begin to become very limited. So in this instance, in the 14th chapter of Matthew, people were trying to eat, but it was tough. You know what I'm saying? It was tough. They were like in a recession back in biblical times. Nobody wants to be in that. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know what I'm saying? No bread at all, only 5 loaves of bread. Now, understand this. The collective consciousness, us as human beings, we have this tendency, like I said, because we mentally adhere to the concept of polarity, we begin to see things as separated. We begin to see things as separate. And because we see things as separate, we enter a particular degree of limitation, because if we're limited in our consciousness, our experience on this physical plane is also going to be limited to some degree. Meaning everybody else is only like, yo, there's only 5 loaves of bread. Christ comes and he's like, yo, I can fix this easy. You know what I'm saying? Scamming empire can fix this easy. Extrapolates that and makes a multitude of loaves, 5,000. Everybody's shocked as to how that happened. Now, one of my favorite quotes in the Kabbalion is that there are no miracles, only higher levels of understanding. And I love that, because the more that you begin to understand reality from a point of causality on the higher planes of existence, things begin to make sense. Because when they say there's only high levels of understanding, it's cause and effect. Cause and effect extrapolated from the mental plane down to the physical plane, because the physical plane is a reflection of the mental plane reflects into the physical plane. And predicated upon Christ being an individual that was unified with the infinite intelligence, transcendent of polarity and duality, seeing limitation, other people were going off what they could see. But the truth of the matter is, what you see is a reflection of your mind, because you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. Even from a physical point, the eyes do nothing more than take electrical signals, send that up to the brain. The brain has a guesstimation on what it's seeing. Metaphysically, you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. Everybody was seeing reality through these shaded tints, as I am seeing through right now. But Christ had no tints on. And because Christ had no tints on, he could see clearly. And because Christ could see clearly, he saw something that other people didn't see. And this is the lesson that I want you to begin to extrapolate in this instance. Oftentimes we see scarcity. We see scarcity in our opportunities, in our career, in our relationships, in our bank account. And because we see scarcity, we're dictated by that scarcity. And when we're dictated by that scarcity, what state of consciousness does that set you in? When you know you've been applying for jobs and you're seeing no jobs anywhere. When you check your bank account and it's low, it's down bad. When you check your Hinge or whatever, your DMs, and it's just no motion, it's just crickets, radio silence, tumbleweeds. These instances in our reality, we allow scarcity to dictate our internal state. But typically, whenever scarcity dictates our internal state, it sets us into worry, panic, fear. And unfortunately, it's those emotions that actually reinforce scarcity in our internal state. And if we have scarcity within, that will be reflected externally. So everybody else, predicated upon what they could see, allowed their internal state to reflect more worry, panic, and fear, which then internally put them in scarcity, which then led to external scarcity. So my question to you is, do you see 5 or do you see 5,000? You have to begin to see your scarcity as abundance. You have to begin to see something that is small as something that is great. Because this goes into something that I cover in Outsmarting Reality, Amazon bestseller for 6 months straight in all 3 categories. 4.9 rated on Amazon with over 1,000 positive reviews. Link in the description. But this actually goes into something that I speak about in that book in one of the chapters, which is your perception equates to your projection. See, oftentimes we're unaware of one thing. How you look at life is how life looks at you. But we're unaware of how we're looking at life. So we're confused as to why we experience life in a certain way. Most of us allow reality to dictate our internal state, to dictate what we see. We allow, when reality says, yo, you got a 5, we believe it. We allow it to convince us of that. And is it a truth? It's a truth the moment it becomes accepted into the subconscious mind, because then it will be materialized. The man who says he can is right, and the man who says he can't is right. But the woman who says they can is right, and the woman that says they can't is right. See, I'm inclusive. Oftentimes we see 5. And because we see 5, we accept that 5 as a particular truth. And we accept that 5 as a truth, it puts us in an internal state that actually perpetuates that 5. What did I say about the Christ state of consciousness, the infinite intelligence? They see beyond the illusion. So did Christ see 5,000, or did he see 50,000, or did he see 5 million? Point being, there was no limitation on what Christ was seeing. You see, in these instances where everybody else would see scarcity, you actually need to begin to see what you have as a particular degree of abundance. Because everything that you're looking for in your reality, you already have. You already have it. And it's about your ability to pay attention to the shit that you already have that puts you in a vibrational resonance to have more of that. Matthew 13:12, to him who has, he will have more and he will have abundance. But to the one who does not have, even what they do have will be taken away. That's 13th chapter of Matthew, right before this chapter right here. This is all about your own perception to what it is that you have. I'll never forget, I had a call once with a lady from New York. You know who you are, the one that's in the saunas. You know who you are. With no context, that sounds crazy. But nonetheless, she was saying to me how she used to make a certain amount of money. She used to make a large amount of money and her money's depleted now. And I said to her, you know, why don't you just look at the money that's coming in the same way that you look at the money that you want? But why don't we all do that? Really think about that. Why don't we see the money that's coming in, no matter how small it is, as a large amount of money to the same degree that we'd see the money that we do want? Because once you begin to perceive it through that same lens, you begin to alchemize that state of consciousness, because that's all it is. It's just a frequency. The numbers in it themselves mean nothing except the meaning that you begin to give it. And see, in your mind, you've begun to assign meaning without realizing to the infinite there is no big or small. Let's borrow that down. So what if you looked at the 5 as if it was 5,000? Then you'd be in a position to alchemize that 5 into 5,000. The money in your bank account, you often probably say, oh, this isn't a lot of money. I really have no money. So how the fuck could you ever have more money? Your internal state of consciousness is within resonance of you perpetuating that idea based upon what you're seeing, which what you're seeing actually has no meaning except the meaning that you begin to attribute to it. And then predicate upon the meaning that you attribute to it, you begin to experience emotions. You begin to experience panic, fear, and worry that then perpetuates that particular experience, reflecting as you actually not having a lot of money. What if you looked at the little amount of money that you have as if it was a lot of money? And you began to allow yourself to feel how you'd feel if it was a lot of money. I mean, shit. Let's say you got £5 in your account for real. How would you look at that £5 if it was 5,000? What emotions would you begin to experience from that? You'd probably feel safe. You'd probably feel free. You'd probably feel joyous. You'd probably feel peaceful. Okay then. Well, are those not the same emotions that you have to be experiencing internally before you can experience that externally? Because here's the thing. We want to experience abundance in this third dimensional realm without experiencing it internally, and it just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. You have to begin to alter the lenses that you're seeing reality through in order for reality to show you something else. Because like I just said, why is it that we look at the 5,000 as if it's just 5,000? Sorry, we look at the 5 as if it's just 5. The 5 in of itself doesn't even exist. It's like that scene in The Matrix where they're talking about the spoon. And she's like, the oracle's like, bend the spoon with your mind. The spoon never even existed. Because what is the 5? Nothing other than what you mean. Sorry, nothing other than the meaning that you attribute to it. So what if you looked at the money when that client pays you? Why don't you look at it as if it's the actual amount of money that you want to be paid? Why don't you look at your bank account as if it already has the amount of money that you want to have? Why don't you look at that, those 2 applications that you've made for a job because there are no jobs? Why don't you look at it as if it's 20 applications? The person that gets back to you, why don't you look at it as if it's a multitude? Because when you have the capability of seeing the scarcity as abundance, then you begin to drop scarcity entirely. And when you drop scarcity entirely, it disappears from your universe. Because then you begin to see abundance wherever you go, because abundance is trying to follow you because you're already in a state of abundance. And this is what this really comes down to. It really comes down to an understanding of abundance versus scarcity. Will you allow the scarcity that reality presents to alter your internal state? Because if so, then you will stay trapped in that. But if you could just see the scarcity as if it was plenty, people say all the time, they'll be like, oh, I got no money. Oh, there's no money in my account. I never have any money. There's no jobs out here. Which all of those things are completely true. But they're completely true predicated upon the meaning that you've given to those things. And that meaning comes with emotion. That emotion reinforces itself into your subconscious. And then there are few truths in reality other than what the subconscious mind accepts as true. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves. And then you begin to live in that box. But that box is literally being molded by you. It's being molded by your inability to see from the infinite and to see the minor as a lot. The small is great. Anything that you regard as scarcity in your life, like I said, extrapolate this to romantic partners, extrapolate this to career, opportunities, employment, money. Why don't you need to begin to see what you already have as a lot in order for you to be in vibrational resonance for a lot to come to you? When you see what you have as small, as insignificant, as minor, then the issue with that is that you only place yourself in a frequency that resonates with perpetuating that exact same thing that you're complaining about. All comes down to the same thing. You're wanting reality to give you great before you become in resonance with great. It doesn't work like that. You can only have what you already have. So you tell me, do you have 5 loaves or do you have 5,000? At the time when me and my boys were thinking about robbing that jewelry shop, we had 5. We had -5. And you know what's so stupid about that? I was I was 17, guys. Me and my boys thought about robbing this jewelry shop in town. It was so stupid because the police station was literally like 5 minutes around the corner. I absolutely would have been caught and I absolutely would have went to jail. So, but we really planned it for real. Like, looking where the cameras are, the CCTV in the area. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But guys, that wasn't me. That was the frequency of the ends.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think I would have had the heart to really do it anyways. Absolutely would have not have done.
Good PR. Perfect. That's what we needed.
Oof, had to bring it back.
Hey, Neuron AJ.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Oh,
Hello.
I love it when they say hi to everybody. Manners, guys, manners.
For real. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work and energy you're putting out.
This is a wholesome message. I can already feel it. Let me turn around. This is a wholesome message.
I've been watching you for around 2 years now, and I've always felt what you were talking about made complete sense. I never knew why, but internally, I could sense that you were giving out the keys for understanding and using the mechanics of the universe from a human standpoint. You've led me onto a life-changing journey, fully focusing on my internal and using anything I could pick up to use it to go even deeper on that journey. It's very interesting to see how information and the knowledge it contains unfolds to you once you change. Over the period of watching you and applying what you teach consistently, I thought I understood what you meant with manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to which you are no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing reality change. But only in this very moment, it hit me like a lightning strike.
Finally.
After imagining,
Told you this man can't eat.
I can't even, why do I feel like a foreigner, bro? I can't even say
Imagining.
Imagine. I can't still say.
Is that what you're trying to say? Imagining?
Yeah, bro.
Goodness gracious.
That's horror.
That's
Like a
horror.
fresh or
Screams of horror.
Where did we read? Oh, the Trey
TikTok
song.
comment.
Yeah. Okay. After picturing my desired reality, especially focusing on the emotion, I felt like an absolute winner, standing on top of my game and with full intensity.
You know,
Deep
someone
love.
commented that you read like Mayweather.
With deep love. You made that up, innit?
I swear to God.
I ain't seen that comment,
I
bro.
swear to God,
I
that's
ain't seen
actual
that
comment. I
comment.
swear to God.
With deep love and gratitude in my heart. That's the best I can describe it. Although words can't match that feeling. But hold on, it goes on. And listening to you speak again after that state of being changed, I didn't even care about what I was seeing. I just know I already have it. Because it's never about the material thing itself. It's about the emotion attached to it.
Tell him.
Thank you for not stopping to drop the same timeless gems over and over. Because you were right. Sometimes information needs to be presented to you in different
That was
ways.
not me. That was AJ.
You're welcome. Yeah. Presented to you in different ways, reframed, and the person watching needs to change themselves in order to fully ingrain that gem into their subconscious mind. Stay blessed, stay winning, stay internally shifted. Written by a human.
For real. That's what a robot would say, though, innit? That's what a bot would say.
Imagining.
You got it, bro.
Why can't I say that word, bro?
You just said it, though.
Imagining.
You just said it. What the hell?
You know what I felt like?
Uh-huh.
You ever seen the African pastors and they try and say beginning?
Oh, in the Beningi. Yeah, for real.
Oh man.
That was bad looks, I'm not gonna
That
lie.
was terrible. I might edit that out, so. Like, he's stopping me from.
No, he's stopping you. You got free will, bro. Any other ones before I go? Start now, because we are entering the Bhagavad Gita section.
Ooh. Watching Nero is cleaning time. I swear I always get my laptop cleaned up whenever Nero's wiping the board. I find spots on my
Because you lot have dirty screens.
Yo, I realized I had a dirty screen when I was watching your video back. And I was like,
I was watching my video back and I was like, yo, my thing's dirty. This is not good. This is not good. Cool. So, the things that I'm going to be saying from the Bhagavad Gita come from the first section of the book, to which there's Arjuna, who's in war with relatives of his, and he's in war over the kingdom. And Krishna, you can think about it like, well, first of all, I don't want to say like Christ, because Krishna actually predates Christ. So does the Buddha, so does Lao Tzu, who's also wrote the Tao Te Ching that we'll be getting into. Just say that for the egotistical individuals that only believe that one person is amazing. Krishna is the avatar. Think about the avatar. Similar in the Gnostic perspective, where they believe that, you know, there's the monad that is the great light, and they send down an avatar, an individual that comes with the consciousness of the infinite in order to, you know, get stuff done. And Krishna in this instance was an advisor to Arjuna in this moment of time. And I think the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is amazing. The reason why I'm focused on the first chapter for this video is because it's straight conflict. It's when our minds are as chaotic as possible and things are in conflict, when we're in war. This can be extrapolated to the war within, and that's a bar that down. Now, one of the things that Krishna says to Arjuna is there is inaction in action and there's action in inaction. Now, I loved that the first time I read it. When I first read that, I was like, yo, that is a bar. Why? Because there is inaction in action and there is action in inaction. What does that mean? Almost sounds like hieroglyphics, and it just sounds like a very, very trippy thing. Now, in this context that I'm going to extrapolate it from a metaphysical perspective for you to create your desired reality, think about this. There's inaction in action. How many times, or I'd probably say how many people, in fact, I'd say majority of people do action. They work hard. They do things physically. I don't think there's a single human being that doesn't take some type of physical action. But what Krishna is saying in this instance is that sometimes that's inaction in action. Sometimes you can just be doing shit, but it's having no effect. And how many times have you felt like that in your own life? How many times have you felt as if you're doing the same thing? You're trying as hard as possible, but nothing's changing. But because we're so encapsulated by this third dimensional realm, because we're so engrossed into it, we think that the only solution in order to get things done, we think the only way to get an effect is to change the effect. That makes no sense. Because remember, there's 3 planes of existence: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Mental plane, physical plane, spiritual plane. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. So, the suggestion here is that action isn't always the solution. And I want you to understand this. Action is only as valuable as the state of consciousness that precedes it. That's a real bar. Please write that down. Action is only as valuable as the state of consciousness that precedes it. Meaning, the inaction in action is the idea that sometimes, think about all the people that are seeking to materialize more money, but they're operating from a frequency of scarcity. So even in their action, there is inaction because of their state of consciousness. Frequency first, action after. See, the issue is most people operate by a frequency that is in direct contradiction to what it is that they want. They then take physical actions to get what it is that they want without realizing that their physical actions are being tainted by the energy that they're operating in. And that energy is the only thing that materializes itself into existence, not the action itself. It's another way of saying you can't outrun your frequency. Because the truth of the matter is sometimes, and once again, I have to put a preface here, because spiritual people have this kind of lazy consciousness where they don't want to take any action. They want to lose weight without doing anything. They want to make money without doing anything. And unfortunately, I'm not one of those type of spiritual people, because I believe there's 3 planes of existence, and each one of those planes of existence require us to be active in all of them in order to get something. Your mental plane has to be arranged right. Your spiritual plane has to be arranged right. And then the physical plane should be arranged right. So by the time you do the physical, it feels effortless. It feels easy. It doesn't feel like it's hard or there's restriction. Because most of the time, what's being said here is that sometimes as well, there's action and inaction. Once again, you have to understand one thing in particular. Your action is only as valuable as the state of being that precedes it. Oftentimes, you attempt to do something while being the same. If you do something different while being the same thing, you're going to get the same thing regardless of you doing different, because ultimately what creates is your state of consciousness, your frequency, your self-concept. Actions are nothing more than a vehicle that take you from one destination to another. That's a bar, write that down. But what type of car are you driving? That's dependent upon the frequency that you're in. What vehicle are you using? Because remember, there is inaction in action, and there's action in inaction. Some people, and I need you to remember this, please remember this. The individuals that are being less need to do more. And the individuals that are being more can get away with doing less. And we've all seen this in our reality. We've all had instances where we feel like we're doing the absolute most. You're trying to materialize a relationship, you're going on these dating apps, you're doing whatever it is, trying your absolute hardest, you're shooting 500 DMs a day. That's crazy.
500 is mad. That's crazy outreach.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. 500 DMs. I know one of you, man, is doing it as well. That's crazy. But anyways, you're doing the absolute most. You're applying for as many jobs as you possibly can. You're reaching out to as many prospects as you possibly can. But the one question that you haven't asked yourself is, why do other people, besides the physical explanations, because there's a multitude of physical explanations that we could have, but this isn't the physical thing. I'm not here to talk to you about networking and, so on and so forth, because those things could be an explanation for those things. But in a metaphysical context, we look at the state of consciousness as the causal factor in order to detach from the third dimensional false gods that we end up creating around things. So if we're looking at it, why do some people have to do more, some people have to do less? It's because some people are being more and some people are being less. And when I say being more and being less, I mean, are you in the correspondent frequency of what it is that you want to attain? The individual that comes applying for 100 jobs thinking, I ain't gonna get any of these jobs, here we go again, yada, yada, yada. Their state of consciousness is in complete contradiction to what they want. So their action is inaction. But there's some people that may not never touch Indeed.com in their lives, and somehow they get an amazing opportunity that come across them in the most serendipitous way. Why? Because there's also action and inaction. Because it all comes down to your state of being. So I want you to do me a favor. In fact, do yourself a favor. Don't ask yourself, what have you been doing? Ask yourselves, who have you been being? Who have I been being? I love that from the Bhagavad Gita. One thing that I also would like to say as well is that if you're an entrepreneur who's already made millions and you have the right team, the right skill set, the right knowledge, everything's in place, but things still aren't moving as fast as you like, or things aren't growing at all, I can assure you have some type of subconscious block and a distortion in your frequency. So you can apply to work with me, link in the description.
3 months into working with Nero, that company now last month did $120,000.
Morning, I had a call with my spiritual coach, Nero, and it's doing great. You know, we did almost 400K yesterday.
Later, now I've been making just over 100,000 per month. I had 100K a month.
That was what allowed me to be able to scale my business past 80 grand a month, and now on a 7-figure run rate for a year. So
Wait, what? Just okay. I'll tell you what. Nero is what back in the day people called Jesus behaviors. How you explain this shit is how it worked. This is the gospel. This is the good news, and you don't even know it.
It is the
Or
good
do you?
spell. Gospel, good spell. And I don't even know, or do I?
You never know it, or do you?
Was he saying, I'm Jesus?
Basically.
Please don't do that.
That's why I was like, wait, what? Is he actually saying that? Someone said you're the Pope of the manifesting community.
I don't know if I want to be associated with the Pope. We know what them man there get up to. I don't know if I want those associations, but I get what you're saying. Thank you very much. I'm just not sure, you know, popes and priests have the best PR. Let me just use black.
Someone said you're the modern day prophet.
Modern day prophet. We're all prophets. We're all prophets of our realities. We're all prophets. Profit loss. Being a prophet, I had a client of mine. She went for a reading a couple of years back. I won't say her name, but you know who it is because I know you watch the videos. I was on the phone with a client of mine. She's amazing, absolutely amazing. Literally went from hundreds of thousands to 300,000 per month, right? And she was telling me some situation where she had got a reading done. And the point of it was she tried to look for the reading so bad that things ended up going wrong. Now, I need you guys to understand one thing. The best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's a bar, write that down. You know, if someone says, hey, you know, I don't know, you're gonna get hit by a car, mate, then you're gonna accept that. The moment that, you know, you accept it, because even from a point of behavioral science, there's a great book called Influence, right? Influence was written by Robert Cialdini. It's a book on behavioral science. And one of the core factors of influencing an individual is having them perceive you as an authority figure. Individuals that we see as an authority figure have a much easier way of entering and hijacking our wiring of our minds. So because you go to someone and they, you know, they're a prophet, or, you know, they're a reader, or they're a tarot card reader, or a palm reader, whatever the hell you niggas are doing, that individual that goes and tells you that, you'll be like, damn, that's real. That's real. Then end up messing up your whole life without realizing that what frequency are they on. You get me? Like, if they just had a fight with their baby daddy and you know what I'm saying is long, and then they come to your reading, come on, man. Like, what you doing? You get me? The pastor that does a prophecy is battling his own demons and then projects that onto the congregation members in his prophecies for them. I had a cousin of mine, King, a pastor, when we were 16. Bear in mind, my cousin had dreadlocks at the time. So imagine me, an African with dreadlocks at the time, right? The pastor was like, yeah, this one's going to die in the next 2 years. Oh, like, what? Anyways, he's still alive, so. cool. I think my pens are dying, AJ.
Again?
No, I think they're dying. I'll just stick to black anyways. So I wrote this one very lazily because paraphrasing here, but should be very, very close. Also in the Bhagavad Gita, within the same context of Arjuna, Krishna is advising him in this conflict that he's having between relatives. Krishna says the wise are those who are alike in profit and loss, victory and defeat, and pain and pleasure. Now, this touches back to my definition of manifestation, remember. Manifestation is internally shifting to a degree to which you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing a reality change. When you're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing anything in reality, another way of saying that is detachment or transcendence from the physical plane being able to affect you internally because you see everything as the same, then you tap into what Krishna was saying. See, how many of us, he said the wise are those who are alike in profit and loss, victory and defeat, pain and pleasure. Which means the fools are those who aren't the same. See, the fools, us individuals, yes, me included, when everything's going great and we're experiencing profit, victory and pleasure, we are absolutely gassed. This is us gassed right there. That's us right there. We are absolutely gassed without realizing that bit by bit, the third dimensional realm, the illusionary reality, is building a little dependence. It's getting us addicted to what it's giving us. It's getting us addicted to what it's giving us. Bit by bit by bit, we're becoming emotionally dependent upon what we're seeing. And because we're becoming emotionally dependent upon what we're seeing, we're giving power away. And true power is internal. So when we're giving away power, that's giving away our internal. Listen, I'd rather give you every pound in my bank account before I give you power over my internal state. And that's to say one thing in particular. If the wise are those who are the same in profit and loss, victory and defeat, pain and pleasure, then the fools are the individuals that when they're profiting, they're gassed. They're great. When the money comes in, great. When you go on that date and it goes well, great. When you get that job promotion, great. When that company says, yep, we like to take you to the next stage for the interviews, great. Krishna says you're a fool. But then simultaneously, Krishna says when you lose, and you're like, fuck, it went wrong. Oh my God, it's not good. When you take an L and you're affected internally, when you go through pain, you're a fool. Because all of this, whether it's positive or negative, it's all the same thing. It's all us relinquishing our internal power. We're giving somebody the keys to our kingdom of heaven so the world can put you in hell. Let's bar that down. The wise are the ones who are the same, because the wise realizes that reality in of itself is a pendulum swing. Once again, this is part of the Hermetic philosophy, the law of rhythm. It's a pendulum swing. Things sway in and out, things sway in and out, things sway in and out. And the individuals, those of us that suffer the most in the individuals that go along with the pendulum. When it swings to greatness, we're great. When it swings to sadness, we're sad. Those are the versions of us that haven't begun to come to the realization that the truth is you have to maintain a degree of neutrality throughout it all. Because if you don't maintain, and when I say neutrality, it's not necessarily that you have to be like when shit's lit, right? And you need to be a robot when it's bad. But it's to say that the pain, the pleasure that you feel, the victory, the happiness, the gas, like all of that, it has to only be able to be stimulated by you. It has to come from within. Because if you allow something to come from externally to alter the internal, then you're giving your power away. This can be extrapolated to people, career opportunities, money coming in, extrapolated to all of that. There's another quote in the Bhagavad Gita, same first chapter. The wise are the same in pleasure and pain. The wise are the same in pleasure and pain. What Krishna is referring to, once again, because remember, Krishna is that avatar that's one with the infinite intelligence, the supreme being of the universe in that context, right? In the Hindu context, which means that he sees beyond the illusion. And beyond the illusion, there is no profit and loss. There is no victory and defeat. There is no pleasure and pain. These things don't exist beyond our third dimensional realm, duality, separation. It's all the same thing. And if you treat it all as the same thing, you can never get caught out. See, we treat them differently, and that's how we get caught out. You have to have to maintain this degree of neutrality, this relinquishing, this independence from reality emotionally dependently. Remember what I said, you have to be independent of being dependent upon. Does that make sense? You have to be independent on being dependent from reality. Yes. And I'm really trying to keep up reading the Mahabharata, but the names, like, I'm like, damn, the names are deep. And I'm like, wait, who's who? It's a great read though. Hey, brother.
Bro singing the slave song. You can't tell me it don't sound like a slave song.
Do you know what it is? Do you know why I think it has that vibe? I think it's because it's like a Western type vibe. You know what I'm saying? And like, or what Americans would call, I think, a Southern accent. And for the rest of us that exist outside of America, Southern accents are terrifying, especially if you're black.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, when the sky comes falling down for you, there's nothing that's what I would do. Dun, 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 dun.
Great song, but scary.
But if I'm far from home, you imagine the drugs when that first dropped at those festivals, the amount of drugs that were being taken. Like, that's one of those things where, like, smoke is, you know, the stage, they're blowing smoke. People like, you know, they dance like this with their hands like that. And if I lose it all, oh sister, I will help you out.
Someone said, I used to download his video and play them as podcasts because I can't afford the data to watch.
Fairs?
But now I can watch
Nah,
just to get
yeah, imagine they on a 1 hour video. Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, that's deep. Reminds me when I was, early school days, I used to have 2 gig of data for the whole month. One month I finished it in 2 days. Oh,
You were playing games.
Yeah.
You were playing silly games. Let me see. What's this? I think that's the red that's finished. Okay, I think that's the
How have you
red.
got 2 reds and 2 oranges? 2 different packs of pens.
Yeah,
And you're running out.
yeah. Now, one of my favorite spiritual texts is written by an individual named Lao Tzu. Now, there's conspiracies if Lao Tzu was an individual or if Lao Tzu was a collection of individuals. It's the same thing with Confucius, but I think Confucius was actually one person, but some people speculate that it's multiple people in the same way they do it with Shakespeare. People these days say that Shakespeare might have been a multitude of people. Doesn't even matter. But Lao Tzu wrote a text. It's only like, things like 20 pages. A text called the Tao Te Ching, spelt Tao Te Ching, but it's pronounced the Tao, right? Because when you see that what people call the yin yang symbol, right, it's also the Tao. The Tao is the infinite. You can think about it like that. It's the infinite supreme being, transcendent of duality, hence the light, the dark, the circles within each. Now, Lao Tzu wrote a collection of texts called the Tao Te Ching, and one of the quotes is this. You gotta get in fact, you should get all of these books. You should get all of these books and read them. You should get the Quran, the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Mahabharata, and you should also get the Tao Te Ching. You should also get the Buddhist scriptures, which are just like stories of the Buddha's experience, like the one with, what was the serial killer called? Something. There was a serial killer that the Buddha changed and made him one of his best students, specified both. It'll come to me anyways. But one quote from the Tao Te Ching. To the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. Isn't that a bar? That's just a straight bar. That's just no games, no nothing. I don't even need to explain this. This is very self-explanatory. But I will nonetheless. Now, in the context of metaphysics, you have to understand that stillness is as close to God as we can actually get, and that's a bar, write that down. Stillness is godliness. Ooh, I like that. Stillness is godliness. I'm gonna write that one down. Can you write that one down for me and text it to me?
Stillness is
Godliness. Yeah, that's fire. You know, from the movie Paid in Full, they say cleanliness is next to godliness, but nah, stillness is godliness. And the reason for that is because there's 46th chapter of Psalm, it says, be still. And this is in the Bible, it says, be still and know that I am God. Now, one thing that you have to understand is that the mind and the universe are the same thing. The mind and the universe are the same thing. See, when you're still, you've surrendered your mind. And I don't mean surrendered your mind in a scary sense, like you've given up your mind, but you've allowed all the internal chaos to kind of dissipate and dissolve. A lot of spiritual people have this tendency to still avoid themselves. See, we avoid ourselves and we mask it as watching videos and reading books and feel as if we're doing something. When the truth of the matter is, the best spiritual book that you could ever read is yourself. And that's what bar that down. See, don't use me as a distraction. Don't use books as a distraction, because the truth of the matter is this work still has to be done. You can't boil, like there's another Taoist quote that says you don't boil rice by staring at it. There's gonna be a point where you have to do the work, and the work gets done once you begin to immerse yourself into the stillness of your chaos. See, in this 21st century, whether it's, the things that we want, the things that we don't have, our brains are brain rotted. There's all these things that are happening. Our mind is moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And because our mind is moving so fast, there's so much chaos that we seek to avoid by going into the external. But then we go into the external dissatisfied, and it's because we're unsatisfied with our internal state of consciousness, but we're unaware of it because we're so distracted by everything else that's going on outside of us. See, Lao Tzu said, to the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. If you want the universe to surrender to you, then you have to surrender to your mind. But the issue is you don't surrender to your mind. You avoid your mind. You say, you know what, let me read this book. Let me watch this video. You know what, let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. And because you're trying to do everything, you're ignoring what you're being. But when you sit down and you immerse yourself, it ain't even got to be complicated. You don't need no guided meditation, and that's all distractions too. Just sit down in silence with your eyes closed and immerse yourself into the stillness of your mind. Because the moment that you do that, the moment you make your mind still, the whole universe will surrender because you will have surrendered. Lao Tzu has another quote that says, you can travel this entire universe without ever leaving your room. It's a bar. Heavy bar.
That's a bar still.
Heavy bar. Lao Tzu was cooking, I'm telling you, he was in the caves, just
pen on fire.
Like, yeah. Or like Light Yagami, when he's ran in the death note, he's like, literally it was cooking like that. Because what you need to understand is, like I said, stillness is the prerequisite to godliness. You can't know God unless the mind is still. It says that in Psalm 46:10. Now let's extrapolate that over here and go deep with what Lao Tzu is attempting to say here. See, the mind that is still, the whole universe surrenders. We often want the universe to be on our side. Life can often feel like a war, like a conflict, like we're trying to do things and things just aren't going the way that we want them to. But the only reason we're experiencing this disharmony is because there's aspects of our mind that is in disharmony, but because we don't pay attention to our minds, we're unaware of the disharmony that we're experiencing within. So then when we see outside of ourselves, we're confused. But how confused would you be if you could see your disharmony clearly? There'd be nothing to be confused about in your world if you spent more time in the inner world. See, the outer world would begin to make a lot more sense once you begin to immerse yourself in the inner world. Then you'll be like, you know what, shit makes sense why it's like that. We often want the world to surrender and bow before us and be on our side and the odds to be in our favor, when your mind isn't even in its own favor. But the only way that you can come to an understanding is if you seek awareness, and the only way that you can seek awareness is seeking to enter stillness into the mind, sitting down and closing your eyes and just immersing yourself into the chaos. See what comes up, see what stands out. I can promise you that will be infinitely more valuable than watching 100 videos. So if you want to make the universe surrender, you gotta make the mind still.
Lero, from watching you in December 2024, then I was financially struggling and didn't have stability within my career. My frequency slowly shifted me into obtaining a new role as business development manager.
Wow.
That sounds like a big deal still.
That sounds like a very, very big deal.
And my portfolio within less than a year is 6 figures.
Jeez. Nice.
And I'm a diehard Tottenham Spurs fan.
Okay.
I've been manifesting cheaper tickets to go to games for time, and now they're about to be relegated. What the fuck have I done?
I don't know about that, bro. I don't watch football. AJ, this is where you want to step in.
Bro said he wanted cheaper tickets, so now they're going down to a league below.
Oh, they'll be cheap now, innit?
They'll be dirt cheap. Season ticket, £200. Nah, that's deep. If they get relegated, it's dark still.
Do you know how like old my knowledge is on football? Like, when I think about Spurs, I think about Gareth Bale.
I knew he was gonna say it. I knew it.
Bro, I don't watch sports. I watch anime.
That's never say that again. Never say that again. I might edit that part out. No, I don't think anyone needs to hear that, man.
What?
Yo, if we went to school together and you said we're in year 9 and bro said, nah, I don't want sports, I watch anime. Gooned out mind. I already know it.
Okay.
I already know it.
Okay. So my mind's got to be gooned out.
Bro didn't even defend himself saying it's not gooned out. I know what type of man you are.
I know who I am.
Are you sure?
Listen, bro, there's no shame in my game. The annoying thing about anime though, like I remember when I was watching it growing up, like whenever my mom would come in the room just to like see what's up, it would always be the maddest things happening on the screen.
You see?
Always.
I remember when we was going to New York. You was watching it on, was it
No,
on
on
the
the
iPad?
Yeah.
And like the flight attendant was coming around saying, you want another drink? And I just seen the craziest scene and you were just like trying to tap.
That was bad too. That was bad. Another thing that Lao Tzu has said, the final thing that we'll be looking into from the Tao Te Ching, to care for the opinions of others is to be their prisoner. I feel like Lao Tzu just got he's just got the bars, he's just got bars, it is what it is. But if we extrapolate that on a metaphysical level, when we care about the opinions of others, we're indirectly allowing ourselves to be molded by the collective consciousness. Understanding that the collective consciousness resides typically between fear and anger. How much value would you attribute to the opinion if you could see the frequency it was coming from? The opinions of others, the thoughts of others, how seriously would you take them if you could see their level of consciousness? And this isn't an encouragement for you to be an egotistical spiritual asshole and think that everybody's an NPC so you shouldn't listen to them, but it's to also get you to realize that not all opinions are made valid. Not all opinions are made equal. The opinion of somebody who's residing in a consciousness of fear to anger is probably going to have some essence of fear and anger within that opinion. So when they put that opinion towards you and then you internalize because you care about their opinion, you've now just allowed yourself to be molded by somebody else's frequency. In order for you to materialize what it is that you want, there has to be part of you that has the capability of transcending the collective consciousness. And the only way that you can transcend the collective consciousness is if you have the ability to detach from the opinions and the approval of the collective consciousness. Because the collective consciousness in of itself keeps us confined within it, because it's an egregore in of itself. An egregore is an occult term for think about an entity made of many thought forms, which have people under within this umbrella. And everybody wants to keep everybody the same and keep everybody within the same energy. So the moment somebody steps out, that thing begins to attempt to use a defense mechanism to pull people back in. And that defense mechanism spiritually is typically love and approval. It's the level of, what if the love and approval of those around you is simultaneously what's confining you stuck into the same position? See, what Lao Tzu was referring to here is that oftentimes when we're caring about the opinions of others, they're the ones that are in our heads and not us. And if somebody's in your head, then they're in your reality, and that's what borrow that down. So, are you a prisoner? Most of us are prisoners. We think, oh, what is this person going to say if I do this? And what about this? And what if I say this? And in that job interview, what if I say this? And they look at me like I'm stupid. And, I don't want to say the wrong thing on a date because, I've already sent 500 DMs and they've already all aired me. So now I've got this one and it's just long. You'll be their prisoner. And unfortunately, if you feel somebody's prisoner mentally, the more than likely, assuming that they come from the collective consciousness, you'll be a prisoner of the collective consciousness. You'll be a prisoner of fear and anger. What if disappointment is the only pathway to freedom? What if disappointment makes you free? I had to disappoint my mom when I told her there's no way I'm being a doctor. Long. But now I'm free, mom. And I think about so many people that will message me, they'll be like, yo, I want to do this, but like, what about this? What about this? Prisoner. Prisoner in the sense of your life and what you can, you know, the life that you want to live, but then simultaneously the vibrational prisoner of the collective consciousness predicated upon their opinions, molding your internal state, which then leads to reflect their external state, which one would assume you don't want. Now, the final thing. Now, with the Quran, I had lots of verses, but I chose one because I think this one encapsulates everything perfectly. But it's a hadith. It's a hadith. I think I should preface it with that. AJ, anything before this final section?
Let me have a look.
Well, have a look.
We got someone from Zimbabwe.
Jeez.
Yo, Nero, hailing from Zimbabwe.
Shout out my ends, man. My real ends.
Real ends of Jamaica, but
Stop trying to claim you're Jamaican.
Been watching you for a minute. Now, I'm not gonna lie. At first, for a lot of your information that you were producing on manifestation, I was a bit skeptical. Having been burned by the spiritual community.
Yikes. I know they had you doing a mad thing. What was you doing? Come on, you was doing the old method, innit? You was putting honey on your tongue, doing affirmations, innit?
Yo, that's crazy.
I know.
That's a technique.
People's, bro, it's long, man. It's long.
But as of mid to late last year, actively believing, you know, watching the videos that you release, practicing living in the end, and something that I desire from a reality is to become a millionaire. As of last week, I signed my first big contract worth $18,000. And honestly,
Zim, you're up.
And honestly, my dopamine didn't spike that much. It felt like the fulfillment of what I knew was coming. And I know you can imagine how much $18,000 is worth in Zimbabwe.
Yeah. That's what I said. This is trillion Zim dollars. You're up. Like, you're up. Nobody can chat to you the same anymore. Nobody can even chat to you. Yo, tell them delete my number. Don't even.
I know this is the first of many, but I just wanted to say thank you for being you and for actually putting Mandem on game. And AJ too. Don't think I forgot about you, dog. No.
Jeez, you did.
Shout out Zimbabwe.
Shout out, man.
We're actually very similar.
What, Jamaicans and Zimbabweans?
Yeah. Heard you like drink a lot, innit? So
I told you we're very similar. And I say this all the time. Bob Marley loves Zimbabwe. He has a song called Zimbabwe.
we're cousins, bro.
I think your ancestry test would come back Nigerian, bro. The issue with Nigerians is that they're everywhere. Like so many people are Nigerians, and Nigerians are everywhere. You can go to any part of the world, and me and my Nigerian friends, we always laugh about this. You can go anywhere, and you'll meet somebody from that country that's half Nigerian. I swear to God, everywhere.
I'm Jamaican, bro.
Buffalo soldier, born in America. Cool. I'll get AJ to pull up the actual hadith. I'm not sure if it's Sahih al-Bukhari. I'm not sure it is. But what we're going to be diving into in this instance is a hadith. Now, one thing that I should preface this isn't Sufism, I don't think. This is mystical Islam. I'm not sure. Sufis are mystic, but it's not the same. There's a multitude of Sufi or mystical Muslims. You have Rumi, you have Ibn al-Arabi. You should read, he has a whole book. It's really, really good. But point being in this instance, the hadith says, I am the way my servant thinks I am. Now, this is a very, very powerful hadith, and a lot of people don't realize this. This exists on two levels. The first is that oftentimes we don't take into consideration our perception towards God. especially if we come from a religious background. Now, depending upon what domination you come from, whatever religion that you was raised in, if you were raised religious, some of us were raised to believe that God is watching all the time, and if you don't do something right, it's pure hellfire, yada, 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 yada. Now, this hadith essentially says that Allah acts in reflection to the individual's conception of him. I am the way my servant thinks I am. Now, most of us as individuals have this idea, you know, that if we do certain things, we're going to get punished. Or if we do certain things that aren't in accordance to certain things, things are going to go wrong. Now, do those things go wrong because God punishes us, or do those things go wrong because predicated upon our own consciousness and our self-condemnation, the universe then condemns us because we've reflected that into the universe? So my question is, how do you perceive God? Because this hadith says, I am the way my servant thinks I am. Other verses say, I am the way my slave thinks I am, depending upon where you're getting the translation from. But the base premise is the understanding that, what is your perception towards God? Now, the other thing that I like in particular about this is that it shows something that is seen in Exodus in the Bible. Now, people don't know that God made Moses a god. Christians will say that people shouldn't call themselves God, fair enough. But then you have to deal with the fact that God made Moses a god. The scripture actually says, Moses, I have made thee a god over Pharaoh, and I've made thy brother Aaron a prophet. God made Moses a god over Pharaoh. Pharaoh is representative of oppression, bondage, and limitation. And then in that instance, Moses only had the capability of becoming God when in Exodus, God revealed itself through the I am principle. And that's why I like this hadith, because it lines up with that particular story of Exodus and the I am. The I am principle in and of itself is the idea of our impersonal state of consciousness that we begin to mold with whatever that comes after we say I am. Hence why Christ said, let the weak man say, I am strong, to mold the internal consciousness for this weak man to end up becoming strong. This links up with this particular hadith. What is your perception towards Allah? What is your perception towards yourself? Through the I am, because it's our preconceived notions about ourselves that begin to be reflected in our universe. Whatever the thinker thinks, the prover proves, and you're both the thinker, you're both the prover. And simultaneously, if you have this idea that God is, you know, very angry and he's wrathful and he's vengeful, then that's going to be the type of world that you live in, predicated upon your mind beginning to play those tricks upon itself and then manifest that out into itself. So you'd have to make sure that, one, your perception towards God is something that reflects a particular degree of harmony and something that reflects a particular degree of love, support, and guidance in order for you to experience that in your universe, as opposed to all the quote unquote negative definitions or characteristics or traits that people attribute to God, such as wrathful, angry, so on and so forth. And now, simultaneously, you'd have to also begin to be aware of what is the I am that you have been exuding, because typically that's going to be the I am that finds you. Now, you can either be a god over Pharaoh, the third dimensional realm, or if that can be your god and you can worship false gods. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is the lessons from the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Ching, and the Quran.